Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. This is Mr. Shakespeare here again with you on the 22nd of February, 2023. I'm here with remote viewer and psychic medium, Liz Cross. How are we doing today, Liz?
Oh, very well, thank you. This is going to be an exclusive for the subscribers only.
Okay, so this guy we have done before, but we're gonna have a redact on him. So because there has been some more questions on the Discord. The last one, I must admit, the results of which surprised me. So, but I won't preload or prejudge or pre anything. So,
Okay.
Okay, let's start with him. How's he doing today?
He's not very well. Okay. He's got a lot of health problems. I feel like he's starting with Alzheimer's. He's not well. They're keeping him under wraps.
Okay. But he did recently speak at the Munich Security Conference last weekend. Was he actually there in Munich?
I feel like it was done. I don't feel like it was done in public. But, you know, again, I'm asking him the questions. And if he's got mind problems, he may not remember that he was there. I feel like that he's got a team around him, like a PR team. Okay. They're keeping this hit, you know, they're keeping him very like behind closed doors. Everything is really scripted. Everything is really controlled. He's not well.
No. How's his relationship with Joe Biden?
How's your relationship with Joe Biden? No, he doesn't like the government. He hates Biden.
Okay. Well, that's consistent. He said that last time. What does he think of Twitter currently?
He's not really interested in Twitter. He's not really interested in social media that much. He thinks that it's a great tool to, you know, to inform people, in his mind, to activate people, to get them, you know, worked up and protest. You know, I think we got before, and it's still very much the same. He's very anti-government.
Right. Yeah.
It immobilizes the masses. That's what he likes about social media, but he doesn't have a lot to deal with it.
So he has no plans to interfere or crush Twitter or buy it or anything like that?
Do you have any plans to crush Twitter? No, he actually likes Elon Musk a lot.
Oh, good. Does he have any control or influence over Meta, Facebook? Do
you have any control or influence over Meta? Yes, he was running, he was running adverts there at one time.
Okay, but does he currently have any control or influence over it?
Yeah, he is very influential over them. I mean, he's a very influential person anyway, because money is power, right?
Right.
So if they think that even somebody that believes that they're going to get a deal out of him, or, you know, he's going to be a client or a customer, you know, they listen to whatever he has to say. They usually do what he wants doing without having to shell out any money.
Right.
He has that much power and influence over everybody.
Yeah. Does he have any influence or control over Mark Zuckerberg then?
Yeah, he believes he has all these people in his pocket. Yes.
Does he like Mark Zuckerberg?
Yes.
Okay. Is he being blackmailed or rewarded to execute a specific agenda in this world? And if so, by whom?
What's wrong? People try to blackmail him all the time and threaten him, and he has a mob security around him at all times. Are you trying to push an agenda? Yeah, he tries to push an anti-government agenda through all the time.
Does he think he's above the law in any way?
Yes.
And what's the crime, assuming he's committed a crime, that he's most scared of being made public?
What's a crime that you're most scared of being made public? Money laundering.
Okay. Does he know who really controls the planet?
Do you know who really controls the planet? Yes, billionaires.
People like himself?
People like himself, yes. They have more influence over the planet than government.
Right, but some billionaires are sympathetic or work with the government. He doesn't like the government, does he?
Some billionaires are sympathetic and work with the government. Yes, that's true, but you don't. Do you? No, he hates the government. He always takes the opposite stance of the government. He likes to organize protests. He likes to make people stay informed. Unfortunately, the recent protests a few years ago, people got injured. But he pays protesters. He has many different companies. He mobilizes. He pays for like propaganda, anti-government. He's very much like freedom for the people. He doesn't like discrimination whatsoever. That stems back from his childhood. And I'm saying, why does that stem back from your childhood? Because he was beaten up by Nazi soldiers. So that stems back from his childhood, where Germany, took control and roughed people up and killed a lot of people. This is where this all comes from. I feel like members of his family were actually killed.
Right. Does he know that he is the bag man, or the so-called bag man, for so much that goes on? He is blamed for so much.
Do you realize that you're blamed? Yeah, he says everybody blames the billionaires for everything.
Yeah, but especially him.
Especially you. Yeah, he says, yeah, that's true.
Is that because of his anti-government positions?
Is that because of your anti-government positions? Yes, he's for the people.
Okay, so this is what people need to realize about Soros. This came out on the last probe as well, which was a shock, or a surprise. Everybody thinks he's the world's worst person on the planet, and yet when you listen to his responses, and they were pretty much the same the time before, he's for the people and anti-government. All right, he's rich and he uses his money and power and influence. But the fact that he's blamed for so much, Soros funded this, Soros funded that. So, and he probably does fund a lot of things, but these are all against the government, not for the government. See, a lot of the NGOs, the non-governmental organizations, they're doing the bidding of the government with plausible deniability, So does he fund any non-government organizations that actually work for the benefit of any government?
He's done any NGOs work for the benefit of any government? No, he tries to avoid that.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
He gets blamed. You're right. He does get blamed a lot, for organizing or funding protests. That's what he's telling me. He gets blamed for the world's problems. He says the government just wants to get their hands on his money. And he has to work very hard to make sure that doesn't happen. He says, yes, I pay my fair dues, but they would love to take it all. He says, once you achieve this status, the biggest enemy becomes the government, because they will wipe out all your money and leave you with nothing. And I understand that. I mean, they do that to the little people. let alone, the big people. Of course they would. The government loves to take your money. You only have to look at pensions to realize that, where you're paying taxes, you're putting money away. And I know there's all these people that'll say, oh yeah, but Liz, there are pre-tax and post-tax investment funds. Yes, but you need to understand, even if it's like a Roth IRA, then they make you do the minimum withdrawals once you hit a certain age. Why? Why? Because if it's a lot of money, guess what they're going to do? They're going to tax you on it, right? And he's just saying the government would love to just wipe him out of all of his money. They would, and he says, and God help him if they did get his money. Because if they did get his money, they would just spend it on all this red tape and all this paperwork, and nothing would ever be done with it anyway. It's never going to benefit the people. So he likes to get people at the grassroots level. He's very anti-discrimination. So he does a lot of funding into gay rights, LGBT, Black Lives Matter, transgender, right? He hates discrimination. Now, given that his answer of, he was beaten up and harassed by Nazi soldiers, and also some of his family members were killed, you can understand that. But of course, the media, the government, they love to blame Soros. They have to blame someone other than themselves, right? He's like, so they just blame me. He goes, I don't care. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And they hate me for the amount of influence that I can have on the people.
Right. Well, obviously, because he's anti-government, they're going to, for example, Jeff Bezos, CEO of Amazon, you don't find him blamed for everything, and yet he's another billionaire. It's because he does work with the government, doesn't he? Amazon Web Services and everything. Okay.
Well, let's ask this question then. Do you believe it would benefit you more to work with the government? No. He says no, it would only benefit the government. The government benefits the government. They don't want to benefit anybody but themselves, right? They don't invest in people unless they are guaranteed to keep themselves relevant. Now think about that answer. Okay, that's his answer. And I told you, see this at every election. They're going to take away our benefits. They're going to take away our pension. They're going to take away our Social Security. They do that. Why? Because they like fear and control. Because by having these benefits, it keeps the government relevant. Anybody only has to look at the current education system to see what a disaster it is. Anybody who has kids in school, okay, you want to keep the government away from your kids as much as possible. I try very hard to do that. But the way that people are being educated now, Mr. Shakespeare, did you know that kids don't read books in schools anymore? Did you know that?
Nope.
Okay, so over here, what they do now is, where we were in high school, we would have to read books, right? You'd have to read the book from start to finish, and you would have to write reports and answer questions and talk about it. They don't do that anymore. What they do now are they do passages of books. So a very important passage, maybe a page and a half of a book. And now that's all these kids do. Now they'll read lots of passages, and they have to figure out what this passage means, what the author is trying to convey. And it doesn't give a full understanding of a book from start to finish. I mean, that is so detrimental to our education system. My kid, he'll come home with a passage, and I'm like, but you have no idea what that book is about. Well, no, and I'm like, well, why don't we get the audiobook? You start listening. Well, I don't have time because I got another passage the next day and another passage the next day. They don't read books anymore. And you only have to look at how the education system is going to understand that, the government is just it wants to remain relevant. How does it do that? Well, you keep people under control. You keep them uneducated, right? You keep them, limited. You stop making them, have possibilities. America used to really take it in its stride that we could create anything out of anybody. I don't find that anymore. I think most people will agree the system just knocks you down so hard. So I can understand with his anti-government sentiment. I really can. It makes a lot of sense. His answers have not changed.
Not really, no. So let's have a couple of other questions. What does he think of the current US government's funding of Ukraine war?
Ooh, what do you think about the current US government's funding of Ukraine? Bad news. Bad news.
Okay.
You shouldn't be funding Ukraine. What should they be doing? They should be at war with Russia. That's his own personal thought, feeling, and opinion. Have you given money to the Ukraine? No. I'm surprised by that answer.
Sorry, what was the answer? They should be at war with Russia?
His own personal thought, feeling, and opinion is that they should go to war with Russia.
Who should? America?
Yeah, stop Russia in its tracks. Now, that is his personal opinion. Why do you say that? Because it would just get rid of everything. America has the ability to just wipe it off the map. And, again, you have to remember, he's what? How old did you say he was, Mr. Shakespeare? Like in his 90s?
93. Yeah, I think he thinks that Russia is like the Soviet Union in the 70s.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's transported back to, that time. Also, I'm like, why didn't you give money to the Ukraine? He says it's useless. There's no point giving money to the Ukraine. So that I find that very surprising, considering that Zelensky is Jewish. I'm very surprised by that. But he just doesn't believe this, it's going to go anywhere. It's not going to help. And he's saying it needs a force up against, again, his own personal thought, feeling, and opinion to take Russia. And the Ukrainians cannot do that. There's no point just keep feeding them money.
Yeah, okay. Zelensky was actually a Christian and spoke Russian for years and then became Jewish and learned Ukrainian. Okay. When he was a comedian, he was a Russian Christian, he wasn't Jewish. He changed.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, and he spoke Russian. He had to learn Ukrainian. He didn't know Ukrainian. And then he banned the Russian language within Ukraine. So, yeah, he's a trained actor and comedian, not Soros. Okay. Does he believe that his son will take over his work, whether it's philanthropic or whether it's anti-government stance, or does he believe his son will be taking over from him anytime soon?
Be taking over from me? Yes.
Okay. Right. All right. Okay. I think that's all we've got time for on this lot. It's very good.
Okay. No, I got to go back to the Zelensky thing. Let me ask Zelensky, are you Jewish? Yes, he's fully fledged Jewish. Were you ever a Christian? No.
Oh. Well, there's a lot of it. There's a lot of okay. Did he used to speak Russian?
Did you used to speak Russian? Some. He did speak some Russian.
Okay, well, there are internet videos out there when he was a comedian and he was speaking in Russian. So, okay, all right.
Videos out there. He was a comedian. We're speaking Russian. Yeah, that was scripted.
Okay. Well, you can script me speaking in Hungarian, but I can't speak Hungarian. So,
You can't speak Hungarian? I'm so shocked.
No, and it's one of the most difficult languages to learn. Did you know that? Hungarian and Finnish. Yeah, Hungarian and Finnish are for non-speakers, it's one of the most, or these two are the most difficult languages to learn. Chinese is easier, apparently.
Ah, well, let me ask Soros, do you still speak Hungarian? No, it's very rare. And do you speak Hebrew? Yes, he does speak Hebrew. Hebrew is quite difficult. It's a difficult language to learn.
Yeah. But I'm
They don't
assuming
really
he
use
mainly
vowels.
speaks English, though, doesn't he?
You mainly speak. Yes, yes. Do you still connect with your Hungarian roots? Yes, from time to time. Uh, are you active in a Hungarian community? No, he really isn't. Are you
I
active in
think
the
he's
Jewish?
banned in Hungary, isn't he? Hasn't he been banned in Hungary?
Oh, has he? Are you banned in Hungary? Yeah. Do you interact with the Jewish community? Yeah, he does. He's a very strong supporter of the Jewish community. Are you Orthodox? No. Are you Reform? Yeah, he's Reform. I don't feel like he's Orthodox. And do you donate a lot of money? Yes, he donates a lot of money to the Jewish community. Interesting. He really is an interesting man. So many people don't get him at all.
I know. That's what's come out again. It's the same that's come out again. So
yeah, and actually, for those people in the crypto world, what are you doing? You're running away, right? You're circumventing the system. That's exactly what he's trying to do, but in a different way. I'm like, do you own crypto? Yes, he does own some crypto. There you go. Awesome.
Stamp of approval.
Yeah. do you own a lot of crypto? No, he owns Bitcoin. All right, we'll stop this one here. This was good. I like Soros. I mean, I always find he's an interesting person to probe. I may not always agree with everything, but he's interesting. You learn a lot.